Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I am doing a man video today. This video applies to men. You can check out my playlist on becoming a better man and attracting women if you're interested. If you're not interested in these type of topics, by the way, you might want to just skip the video, or you might want to listen just to hear this out. But I have been talking to a lot of guys about a lot of different issues. I do a lot of coaching around guy stuff. And what I've come to realize is that there are basically three major fears that all men have in life. Three things that basically make it so that you feel not competent or not enough or not good enough in life, like the nagging kind of threats or that nagging kind of feeling that you'll have every single morning unless you conquer these three areas of your life. And I've condensed it down to three, and I wanted to talk about those three things today a little bit in depth here, just so you can understand these and see which one of these three, if any of these three, that you're lacking in. Most guys, I'll tell you, are lacking in all three of these, okay? And try to give you a little bit of tips on how to overcome it, but I'm more so going to focus on what they are so you can identify these things in your life. And like I said, this comes from my own self, right? Just examining a lot of what comes from these videos, I'll have to tell you, comes from me just deeply, like, rawly examining myself and saying, hey, you know what? If I pull back the curtain, what is honestly here? Like, when I honestly look in the mirror, I have a video on looking in the mirror, honestly, you should definitely check that out. And if I look in the mirror and I look raw and I just say, okay, what is it? What is going on here? And you know, this is what I come up with. And then, you know, a lot of this also comes from, like I said, just working with guys and talking to guys and talking about these subjects, especially doing a lot of coaching around this area. So, okay, so again, let's talk about what I'm going to be discussing here. So these are three things that I would say are the fears that men have, okay? Or you could say that these are areas of vulnerability, like places that if you do not feel secure in this area, you're not going to feel secure as a man, and you're going to be lacking the kind of self-confidence and self-esteem that you want. So there's three of them. Okay, let's start with the first one. So the first one is to die in battle. It's like to have the courage, and these are all sort of things that you need to have courage about, right? These are all fears or places where you need to be courageous. So the first one is that I believe that every man sort of questions whether or not, you know, like I just heard this stat that if you, on D-Day, if you went to the beach, if you were storming the beaches of Normandy, on D-Day, you had a 50% chance of dying, right? That was 50%. So you would go in kind of knowing this, that you're probably going to die. There's a high chance. Would you actually still do this, right? So you could think of this as being a gladiator, right? Would you be a gladiator in the arena and risk your life for glory? Like, would you be a soldier currently, you know, and risk your life? You know, back in the day, would you fight to the death with a sword? Like, you know, I think about those times in history where you would have to, like, make these choices, or you'd be a coward, right? So would you be the coward or not? And so I think every guy has to face this idea of, like, and it might be at a smaller term, like today, maybe it may be good enough, and it might depend on who you are, but maybe it's like, could I get into a fight? Could I get into a fist fight and hold my own? Or, you know, would I be willing to, or would I back out and be a coward and run away and try to save my ass instead of, you know, fighting like a man? And so I think if you don't address this, right, as a guy, you're gonna feel like you're not good enough. You're gonna have this nagging feeling, and from time to time, I always question myself. I always think about this, like, when it comes down to it, like, if I have to fucking die, if I have to fight to the death, will I do it, or would I beg for my life? You know what I mean? And you know, and this is a question that you can't fully answer until you're in the situation, but you can put yourself in situations, smaller situations, that can give you some confidence in this, and just how you live your life and your philosophy, right? There's ways to secure yourself in such a way that you know that you would be willing to die, right? So for example, with me, myself, I had lived my life in a way that was trying to build security around my life. I won't go into the details because I've talked about this in a lot of videos, but if you want some details, you can check out my video on the talk I did on 5 soft skills every software developer should know, because I have a talk about that and about overcoming fears in that part of the talk. But the thing is, like, I had built my life around, like, trying to be secure, and then I finally realized that I needed to embrace uncertainty and risk and start taking more risks in my life and like live my life to the point where it's like, you know what, I'm living my fucking life, if it means that I am going to die sooner or that I'm going to put myself in more risky situations, it's better than being a fucking coward and running away, right? So I decided to embrace that part of my life and to be a little bit more courageous and to be more brave and to be willing to die if I need to die rather than be a coward. And some people say, well, that's not smart. It's not analytical. It doesn't, you should live to fight another day. Maybe that's true. But if you're a man, you're always going to have to deal with that demon, that deep-seated fear of, am I able to put my life on the line? Would I fight, right, to the death? Or will I be a coward? And so that's number one, okay? I think every guy has asked themselves that question of every time you hear of people dying in combat, you think, would I be able to do that? Or would I be able to be a gladiator? Or would I be able to be a knight back in those days, right? And you question that within yourself, so you got to know the answer. Or would I be able to even get into a fight, right? And actually fight? Or would I run? Would I give up? Would I defend people that are weaker than me? Would I defend my family? Those type of questions, I think is a question that every single guy struggles with, and you got to figure out the answer for yourself. Otherwise you're going to feel, and if you feel like you would run, then you feel like a coward, and you're going to feel that deficiency in yourself all the time, right? Every time you wake up in the morning, you're going to feel that nagging deficiency. And by the way, before I get into number two, these are things you have to deal with. So that's why I'm bringing these out. Okay, so next one. Number two. I think this one, I was trying to figure out how to describe this one, but I believe this one is it's the fear that you're not good enough to attract a woman that you want to attract, right? That you're not attractive in some way. And in some manifestations of this, it could be I'm not good looking enough, I'm not slick enough, I'm not attractive to women, and I can't get one. I'm too afraid, I'm too shy, I couldn't go out and do this. And so the reason why I've defined it this way, and again, this could probably use some refinement, is because I'm trying to get, again, at this deep-seated fear or this deep-seated type of what is the actual heart of the thing that puts that little thorn in your heart when you wake up in the morning and you feel like you're not good enough, and what exactly is that? And the reason why I define it this way is, like I said, is because I think that you could be in a relationship and you could have relationships. You could have a girlfriend, you could have a wife, you could have all these things, and still not feel like you've conquered this, because you know that you couldn't just go out and procure for yourself what you wanted. Like it fell into your lap in some way. It was a friend, a coworker, you met through something like this. It wasn't like your aggressive action of taking charge and being the man, and you don't, and or maybe even in a relationship, you don't feel like there's true attraction. You feel like the woman that you're with settled for you in some way, or you couldn't really get her on your own, or something happened, or she's using you for money, or whatever it is, you don't feel like you've actually sparked that attraction and that you're worthy of it, right? So if you don't feel like, and it might even come down to the fact that you don't feel like you have options as a man, right? So this is, again, another one of those things that the confidence is hit when you don't feel this, that you feel like you're not worthy, you're not enough of a man if you don't feel like you've got this area of your life mastered to some degree. And this was me, again, for some period of time when I was really shy, I was really scared, and I finally, when I had overcome this, I remember having this just feeling of like, gosh, I'm finally fucking like I can finally walk down the street and not feel like a damn pussy, because I could go and talk to this girl, or I could go and it was something that I had overcome because it was dominating my life for such a long time, being fearful in this area. And once I'd overcome it, I felt so much more of a man, right? And so I think a lot of guys really, really struggle on this one. Again, I do a lot of videos and talks about this because it is so prevalent, especially the social anxiety component of this. But you got to find your security in this and all of these things. Otherwise, you're gonna feel this nagging down. And a lot of people try to get around this. By the way, I had this whole discussion with a buddy of mine. We're talking about how you try to get some money, or try to get or whatever it is, or status in some way, but you never overcome the actual fear, and so you're still afraid, and deep down, like, you may have gotten the result, but if you don't feel like you have the strength to do it on your own, then it doesn't count, right? And you'll always feel that nagging down. Okay, so the third one is to be what I would describe as being a self-made man, which I would say that you can, you could see this as being an entrepreneur, starting a business. Not that everyone has to, but that you can go and you could procure for yourself money, that you could resources, that you can build a life, build, whatever you need to survive, that you're self-made in some degree, that no one gave you a handout, no one gave you help that you needed, right? Not that you can't ever accept help from anyone, but that you could do it on your own, right? That you could make money, you could take care of your family, you could take care of yourself, right? What I would call a self-made man. You have to feel that. And a lot of guys would struggle with this if they've been giving some kind of inheritance or trust fund, right? But not just those guys. Pretty much every guy struggles with this because you wonder, like, are you worthy for this job? Did you luck into this? Am I a fraud? Or do I have the skills? Could I build my own business if I needed to? Could I start over from scratch, right? Did I earn what I have, right? And could I do it again? These are those questions. So that's the three. And I think these are really powerful. Like, if you think about this and you really think about what are your answers to these questions, it's really powerful, and it can be transforming. And I don't really think there's any more. Maybe there's a fourth somewhere that I haven't looked at, but I've sort of condensed things into these three. So let me know if you think, and again, I'm drawing a lot from just my own experience. Maybe these are just my biggest three insecurities that I've overcome in life. But I would say that these are insecurities for pretty much every man. I would say that this is like the default set, and if you don't conquer all three of these, you're gonna feel not 100%, right, until you do this. And once you do, then it changes the game. It changes everything. It changes how you walk, how you talk, how you live, right, because you feel like you are the man, right? And I think there's, again, a lot of people have asked me about like becoming a man and going through manhood. And to some degree, I think a lot of it is dealing with these issues. Not that you'll ever perfectly conquer all of these areas. I don't think anyone can perfectly conquer this, but that you've got confidence and you've made growth in all three of these areas in your life. And if you're missing one of them, you're going to feel it, and you're probably going to be living your life in such a way as that you're trying to either make up for it or trying to prove it to yourself and to the world, or trying to avoid it. And all of those behaviors, all of those things are going to prevent you from being authentic and being yourself, right? Because you feel like you're not worthy. You feel like you're not good enough. So that's all I got for you today. Again, I don't have huge solutions for this, or really great solutions. There are some for sure, but what I would say is, examine these things and see, really take a good hard look and say, is this possible that, how much are these things, these insecurities, playing a part in my life and influencing my behavior? And what could I do to actually like overcome these and to, to really, I want to say, not make up for them, because you don't want to make up for them. If you're living your life around a problem, you're making up for it. That's not a good idea. And so you want to deal with the problem directly. So how could you deal with these problems directly and get rid of these insecurities for good? All right, that's all I got for you today. Hope you gentlemen enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the bell to make sure you don't miss any videos. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.